The other piece I wanted to share, and this is actually more of a personal share today. I was in Mexico recently. I went to Mexico because I am writing a book. So I was there, and of course, the first thing I do when I get off the plane is I meet a handsome individual who was a local from the area and ended up having kind of a romantic experience with this person. And I wanted to share it with this community because it has been a long time since I felt that enthralled with someone. And I am aware that when you travel, there's actually a flood of certain pleasure-inducing chemicals that light up in your brain. So for anybody that doesn't know, when you travel, you actually have like travel chemicals that flood your brain and actually put you in a better mood. So those were nice to experience. So I had this wonderful experience and I was just kind of like going with it, and I was like, this is lovely, this is nice, this is one of those occasions where you get to have some companionable experience with someone, show me the local areas. I got to get off the resort and see things and stuff like that. And then by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I really, really like this person. I thought to myself, what if this is just the magic of 7 days? It's just brain chemicals, and I go back to New York and I don't feel the same way, or vice versa. Like maybe it's not sustainable for him and like he doesn't want to break my heart. Am I just pursuing this on some level because I am avoidant? And it's easier to have this connection to someone who's far away. As much as I have opened up in this experience, is it that I need to just bring that openness back to my everyday regular life and extricate the experience and the feeling and the openness from the specificity of this person? And if I don't do that, am I actually blocking the expansion of that experience by continuing to hang out with that person, right? So this is just a review of like all the spin cycle stuff like going on in my head, and I know that this relates to some people here because I've definitely seen a few of these things popping up in the feed, especially around long distance relationships. But I want to tackle the big ones because it helped me a lot, and actually it made me willing and able, because I did still have the feelings when I came back to New York, and it made me willing and able to. We sort of left it a bit open. We didn't quite discuss it. There wasn't a lot of like closure when we left, but there was this like total like romantic comedy movie moment where he had to work the day that I was leaving, but he like made an effort to like race to the airport and like see me for 10 minutes before I got back on the plane. It was really romantic. And so I kind of had a moment where I just like allowed myself to be vulnerable and reached out to him. And I made a video like this and told him about how I felt about him and that I wanted to open it up. So maybe this is for anyone that's had a long distance fling or you met someone on vacation and you're not sure if you wanted to go somewhere. What if it was just an unsustainable magic? What if feelings change? I don't want to hurt them and I don't want to get hurt, right? So to the first part, if this is an unsustainable magic, well, there's really only one way to find out, isn't there? And what about if feelings change? Well, yes, feelings change. They change all the time. Sometimes they weaken and dissipate, and sometimes they deepen. And you can only really be responsible for managing your feelings and being respectful of somebody else's by being totally honest about what your feelings might be and not trying to mold them or people please enough, because then nobody's being honest, right? Plus, what am I going to do? And am I going to avoid the hurt feelings, right? Am I going to avoid the good feelings to avoid feeling the hurt feelings? And that's kind of a no-win situation, because then I end up with no feelings at all. And then what kind of quality of life is that, right? It's a life that's not very vital, I can tell you that. So that was kind of how I opened that up a little bit. And then I had this idea like, well, what if I'm just being avoidant? What if he's just being avoidant? I mean, like, he did strike up with someone who he knew was going away. So what if we are to continue being in contact with each other, like what if we are just like blocking each other's energy and we're not actually taking what we gain from this experience back to our lives like we're supposed to, right? Well, there's a premise there, the idea that there's some magician, master wizard that's making these things happen, and then there's like a plan for us. There's some kind of agenda, and I have to figure out what the agenda is and somehow mold myself to it. When in reality, I do believe that we create our own realities, and there's no pre-planned outcome here. It's what we ultimately decide. So what if both of us were vibing in such a place that we were able to come together in a circumstance that granted each of us permission to let down our guards well enough that we could finally have time enough to see what was on the other side of those walls. And what if the discovery is that the world is actually full of opportunity and abundance, and boundless, possibilities for love and relationship configurations? And what if we are able to simply remain present with those good feelings and that desire that we are experiencing now without needing to label or contextualize it or put ourselves into boxes as being anxious or avoidant or disorganized or whatever, and just going with how you're feeling and flowing in the moment, then in some ways you kind of take the momentum away from the ego-based fears, which are trying to make predictions. And the minute that we get caught in making predictions is the minute we live and create and start constructing those predictions as the ultimate outcome. But what if we let go of those predictions and just go with whatever the next step is right in front of us, and trust that if we can continue to flow with those good feelings, that the next steps will be inspired steps, and that the circumstances will continue to open for us in the ways that they did from the onset. That was kind of where I left it, and I kind of shared these thoughts with him, and I hadn't heard from him in a few days, so I wasn't sure if this was just me being anxious. Because I came home, I'm really glad I gave myself like 5 days between vacation and going back to work, because I came home and I was just like, oh, I miss him so much. I miss him so much. When am I going to see him again? How long before I can text him again? Is it crazy for me to text him right now? I want to send him a picture. Like, just all of the feels came up. And it just kind of brings me back to and keeps me humble, because I have said before, and I'll say it again, I try not to think of myself as an expert so much as I like to think of myself as an explorer. And I am definitely still on this journey with all of y'all exploring this. And this is I think I've mentioned before, it's been years since I've really been inspired in this way by someone. And it's nice to be in the thick of it. And I say nice, but it doesn't always, maybe that's not always the word, right? I had days where I was crying. I was like, I feel so anxious. And I'm like, what do I tell people to do when they feel anxious? What do I tell them to do? How can I need to do that now. And I'm so I've making art. I've got artwork everywhere. I've just been writing down ideas or whatever. I've been moving, and it took 4 days. I was probably going through chemical withdrawals too, but it took 4 days, and then I was just like, oh, okay, now I'm calmer. And I tried not to take too much action while I was in that place, but it was hard, man. It was hard, man. I wanted to text him so bad. But I was just like, no, it's not what you do, it's your vibe while doing it. And I'm gonna wait until I'm in a more even vibe place where I'm connected with that rock in my gut, and I'm in a more centered place. So I did. And it turns out he was kind of in the same place, and he was feeling the same way. And he was like, I love the way that you think about this, and it's so inspiring, and yes, let's just keep it open for the possibilities. We're keeping it open. We're gonna keep the energy flowing, and just gonna keep it high vibing. I'm still gonna live my life in the meantime, and he's gonna live his life in the meantime. We're just gonna let the universe open up the possibilities, and it's scary, and it's exciting, and it's fun, and I might freak out between now and then, more than once, but I think it's good. It's a great place to be. And I just wanted to share that with you, because the other question I think that actually popped up here is, how can I be in process without needing to know the answers already? Or how can I let myself be kind of confused about things without already having myself figured out? And I think that if it helps you to know, I don't think I have myself all figured out, but I definitely have some of these thoughts in my mind. And so I think it is an ongoing thing. You just got to learn how to kind of ride it like a wave, So I'm on a wave peak right now, and I wanted to share that as much as I share the other insights of this community.